I love you. Gentle folk, ladies and men, we're glad to have you here again. Doodly-doo. Wee-oo. Wait, hold on. I got this. I'm the Green Traveler. Wait, no, I've lost it. I'm the Green Traveler from Gorsh. Everybody, hello, welcome back.
And I
lost the tune.
The Faceless Leon. He'll practice it for the third Doctor episode. This is Green and Faceless on the Couch, a podcast about movies and TV. And this is this. Yeah. He's excited. I'm really excited.
Live audience.
Yeah. Oh, it's not you. It's the audience. We are here doing a second installment of Doctor Who because it is a long running show. If you don't know anything about Doctor Who, you might want to check out our first episode on it. There's a reason why we decided to do multiple episodes, and that's because the Doctor changes over time.
Indeed, he does. They do, actually.
They do, that's right.
And that actually brings me to a very exciting announcement because this is coming one day after they've announced the 14th Doctor, and I am so fucking pumped. I was hoping for an Era of the Woman. I will be honest. Jodie Whittaker's been the Doctor for the last, 4 years or whatever. 3 seasons, but, time. So it's been nice, and at the same time, we've had 55 plus years of men as the Doctor, so I was like, let's do an Era of the Woman. This will be a lot of fun. That doesn't mean I'm not as super fucking over the moon excited for the person they did choose, because it was Ncuti Gatwa. I have not seen anything Ncuti Gatwa is in, and honestly that's the case for all but 2 of the main Doctors and 4 of all of the Doctors in general. There's only 2 Doctors before this who I had seen before watching Doctor Who.
Right.
All the rest have been brand new to me. And so, I'm super freaking excited for Ncuti. I can't wait.
Me too.
Yeah, I watched a lot of interviews. His personality is the most, beautiful thing ever. I believe he is gay. He is a gay black man. I don't know. Maybe this is a very divisive statement for some people out there, but that's my favorite personality. I love being around gay black men because they're just the best kind of people. I don't know. The few gay black men that I have known in my life have been some of the best people I've ever known. Yeah. And their personalities are so fucking wonderful. And Ncuti, just from what I've seen in the interviews, is no different. Just watching him for 5 minutes, I was just smiling and just oh my god, this guy's gonna be so perfect as the Doctor. And I can't wait for it. It's gonna be wonderful.
The picture that you showed to me, well, one of them, had him in this school uniform, which is from the set of sexual education, or just sexual education?
Just sex education, yeah.
And I was thinking, that's honestly not a bad look.
No, it's not. Honestly, it really is good. I've seen some people play with looks. I kind of went through his. This is stalkerish of me, but I'm sure a lot of people did this once they made the announcement. I went through his Instagram, and there's actually quite a few outfits that he has on his Instagram. And I'm like, ooh, that would look great for the Doctor. Oh my god,
That's probably how they picked him. Is they saw his Instagram and they're like, man, there's so many things we could do.
Right. It's man, this guy could pull off so many styles. But there was one that kind of looked very Sylvester McCoy-ish. Oh, cool. And at the same time also a little bit Colin Baker-ish. It was a very rainbow colored shirt, which, that suits for the Doctor. He's had many outfits that were very rainbow colored. They. I keep forgetting.
Yeah, we don't want to blip out Jodie. We just
Yeah, exactly. No, that's the thing. Is as Jodie has said, she may be one of 13, but she'll always have been the Doctor, and that's the damn truth right there. It's everybody has embodied the Doctor differently, and Jodie has been absolutely wonderful. I've always liked her in the show. The writing was hard to get through,
right?
But she did a great job with the writing. She played her personality well.
I agree.
She was bogged down by the constant need to use a sonic screwdriver on everything. But this isn't Jody's episode. I won't go into it. That'll be for like 5 years from now, because it's in reality. I know, and my friend over there, the Faceless Leon, knows that
the Faceless Trelone knows.
The Faceless Trelone. I almost said the Faceless Traveler.
Yeah.
But like these episodes, I wholly acknowledge they're not for everybody. Not everybody loves Doctor Who, and so they're not going to tune in that much. Or they won't get as many views, and I understand that. This is just for me to just go absolute ham. And to go just absolute crazy with something that I love, because this is one of my favorite things in the world.
Yes,
and
I am in love with it. I'm pretty certain that you are the one who got me into it. Like, I was familiar with it. I think I'd seen a couple of episodes. I think I went to like what was supposed to be like a class project thing, but really they were just turning on Doctor Who. And like when you tell me stories about your high school experience, it seemed like this was what you did every day, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. I did not have much of a high school experience. I was in college classes by the time I was a junior, and I was also in the tech crew. We call it the tech crew. Most people will call it like the AV club or something like that. It's the lights and sound for theaters, that kind of thing. And so by the time I was a junior in high school, I pretty much wasn't going to any of my classes because a lot of them were college classes, so they only met on Mondays and Wednesdays. During that time, I didn't have to do anything on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. But the school enforced that I had to still be there. They're like, you can't just go home during those hours. You have to be here. And I was like, well, home is 30 minutes away, so it'd be kind of pointless to go home just to come back for the afternoon, anyways. So a lot of the times in my high school, I played video games. I went to the tech crew's designated room in the high school where we had a Nintendo 64, and I would play Smash with anybody who was bored with their class and would just come and join me. High school was kind of a joke for me. That's why when I have a very strong, opinion on American education, it's because by the time I was in junior, I basically passed America's education already because it's fucking stupid.
It's pretty stupid, and I honestly feel if I tried, I could have as well. But I just wanted to be done with the work and then go home and watch TV, and look what I do now.
Right? It's paid off. Well, we're not getting paid for this, but it is paying off. Well, we are getting paid for this by some people.
Yes.
And if you want to join those people, you can go down to patreon.com/green and faceless, check out our tiers, and maybe help us out a little bit.
That would be great. Help us turn this into something that is profitable rather than a hobby that almost pays for itself.
Not that we won't always offer this for free, though. If you're just if you're a regular listener, we love you just the same as those who help pay us out. Well, probably not just the same, just a smidgen less, but we still love you.
Yes, we do. Take me out to the living room. Take me out to my chair. Hand me the clicker and turn on the tube. I don't care if we even eat food, for it's the Faceless Pitch. Did I practice that? Not really. Am I a little less inebriated than usual? We're talking about TV today here on the Faceless Pitch. So I have 3 picks for us. I like to do a little bit extra on the Faceless Pitch on these episodes because, as you'll see, the second half of the show, when we're digging into Patrick Troughton, that's who we're talking about, right?
Yeah, okay, second Doctor.
Okay, when we're talking about him, it's going to mostly be Greenie. So I wanted to bring a little bit to the table. We're going to travel back in time first in our, time and space in relative dimension. I fucked it up.
Time and relative dimensions in space.
Damn it. Damn my dyslexia.
You were close. You were very close. You were calling it Tadris instead of TARDIS.
Tadris. Welcome to my Tadris.
This is my Tadris. It's shaped like a snail's back.
Come inside. It's smaller on the inside.
It's smaller on the inside.
So we're going back to turn of the century, not this century, New York, early 1900s till the Gilded Age of New York City in a series called The Gilded Age. So,
I was hoping it was called Teddy Roosevelt.
No, it doesn't have Teddy Roosevelt. They do mention him, but it's not.
That's very rude.
So this show is done by the same person who did Downton Abbey. I believe Michael Engler is the guy. Apologize if that's not right, but he wanted to bring this era to life as well. It has a similar pace to that, but there's a bit more of a biting edge than the chill, relax feel that you get from Downton Abbey. Downton Abbey Secret Review. It's about the rich people and their servants and how their life interacts with each other and evolves as time passes.
Right. You know what also has a biting edge?
What's that?
Teddy Roosevelt.
Teddy Roosevelt did have a biting edge. We need that back. So
that dude chomped words off with every single sentence.
So, the Gilded Age is, it's got a similar dynamic, but it's on a wider scale. It is I suppose I don't know about yes, it's on a wider scale because it focuses on more people than just the one family like Downton Abbey does. This is about old money versus new money. If you're not familiar with the history of New York, during this time, industry was allowing people that never had money before to accumulate a lot of it until their fortunes competed with people who migrated from Europe, their families rather, to the States with a bunch of money. So these people who are old money did not like these new people rubbing elbows with them at social gatherings and stuff. And it's really about one particular family. And it's been actually a little while since I watched it, so it's going to be hard for me to mention people by names. But I believe it's the Russell. Yes. Bertha and George Russell, played by Carrie Coon and Morgan Spector, are new money. And they really, especially Bertha, Mrs. Russell, she really wants to get in on the societal elite because they're one of the richest people in New York in the story. And George is the business stuff that they do with George, also pretty interesting and intriguing. All in all, I really enjoyed watching this show. I give it a full face. The other family they focus on is really cute, but they also, being that they're the old money family, are a little bit rigid, especially their matriarch. I believe, oh man, if I say it wrong, I apologize, but we have Deborah Monk as Mrs. Armstrong, and her family, the Armstrong family, that consists of her sister and her niece who recently became orphan and came to live with them. It's, so there's a lot of interesting dynamic. It is slow paced like Downton Abbey, and I would say that the season finale, while the goals of the characters were met, did kind of feel a little flat. Like, it kind of felt like, hey, if we do get canceled, it'll be okay. It's like one big, long movie. But there wasn't any, like, it didn't feel like there was any really big, dramatic moments in that finale. So I did miss that a little bit. What do you think about the Gilded Age?
I mean, I don't think it's going to be anything on my radar for a while. This might sound as like, blasphemy to some people's ears. I've never watched Downton Abbey. It's one of those shows that, it got real big. Everybody was talking about it. It's kind of like Game of Thrones. I don't know. There was a point in my life where I was trying to keep up with what everybody was talking about. And Game of Thrones has been one of my favorite book series since I was young. I remember reading all of them, and I was so excited. And I was like, oh my god, they're going to make it this TV show. And I watched the first season, I was like, oh no. They got all the characters wrong. They got all this shit wrong. Like, what's going on? And everybody's blowing up and talking about how much they loved it. And I'm sitting there like, they can't figure out how to do exposition without having a sex scene. Like, no, this is bad. This isn't good.
And everybody else is like, look at those fucking sex scenes, man.
Yeah, everybody's like, this is like Lord of the Rings, but with boobs. And I'm just like, all right, like that's fine, but no, this isn't what I want. You know, I want the. I mean, not to say there isn't sex in Game of Thrones, because there very much obviously is, but in a book you can do exposition without sex. But no, it's just I think that was the point where what was popular with the people was no longer popular with me. I became that hipster, if you will. Uh-huh. And I was just like,
I knew it first.
Everybody was talking Downton Abbey, and I'm like, I think I would love that, but I'm not going to give my time to it. You know, right. It's just like, someday I do kind of want to sit down with somebody and watch it, because I'm pretty sure I would love it. And that's probably the same thing with this show. Is like, I think I would like it with somebody. By myself, right. I think I would fall asleep.
I would agree, especially, so it really takes a minute to get into Downton Abbey, but it is worth it. I will say that.
Well, I also just love the cast. The cast is astounding in Downton Abbey. Like,
they really are. I
mean, just what's I'm gonna get in so much trouble with this episode. What's McGonagall's name? Maggie Smith?
Yes. She's the dowager, the
right.
Countess Dowager. Are they counts?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
I mean, just for her alone, I would love the show, because like, she's freaking phenomenal. So, well, I know that I would love these shows if I give them the chance. I think the problem really lies with just the fact that I'm trying to watch them alone, and I'm just not vibing by myself.
Right.
You know, if I was watching it with somebody, I think I might vibe more.
I can totally understand that. So, I'll give you another pitch then. We'll go forward in time. Same century, 60s. Here we are.
I'm liking it.
The television is becoming more and more popular, and a lot of people are getting them in their homes nowadays, but not the Childs. The Paul Child was a
not the children.
Paul Child, played by David Hyde Pierce from Frasier. He plays Niles on Frasier. He was a delegate or an ambassador, typically in Europe for the United States. But he was forced into retirement. And this story is not about him at all. It's about Julia Child, his wife. I know that name. Yes, you do. So Julia Child, at the start of this show, has already written her famous book. She's obviously more famous for her television show. But at the time, her book was still getting some buzz, because it brought French cooking to English-speaking households, rather, namely in America. So it was kind of revolutionary, and she used that clout a little bit to propose that she make a cooking show. After she was a guest star on television, she became interested. She cooked on that first guest spot. Can't remember the show, but it was about books. She brought a hot plate onto the set and cooked an omelet for the host. That was not necessarily planned. They did not rehearse that. It was supposed to just be an interview, and she was a lot of fun. And she did it on like a night table, and she's a tall lady. She's like 6-something.
Right.
So she cooks this omelet for him, and that's in the first episode. And then she gets curious about it, and she comes to them and is like, "Hey, what if I did a cooking show?" And this is about the first season of that cooking show. I really hope they come back. Me and Sarah absolutely loved every single bit of this. Julia Child, by the way, is played lovely by Sarah Lancashire. I'm not very familiar with her work, but she's great. They have her best friend, Avis Devoto, played by Bebe Newrith. Avis is cool, like her and Paul, and I can't remember the other character who really help her like rehearse each episode and stuff like that. The show is produced by Russ Morash, played by Fran Kranz, from from Cabin in the Woods.
Cabin in the Woods?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. If there's another live action Scooby-Doo movie, he should play Shaggy.
Nobody can play Shaggy ever again.
Only Matthew Lillard.
Only Matthew Lillard, man. He's nailed it. He is Shaggy.
He did. Secret Reviews.
It's like, no, it's like, if you think, like, nobody could take or beat Casey Kasem as Shaggy, and it's like, no, of course not. And then Matthew Lillard came in, and it's just like, oh, you are Shaggy.
Yeah.
I didn't realize.
Damn.
No, Frank Kranz would definitely be
it is
a good
also
choice,
produced by Alice Neyman, played by Brittany Bradford. And as a black woman in this industry, part of her story is struggling to get recognition. She is already in a high position when the story starts, but she's still being treated as if she's like an assistant or a PA. So the story, her story is a lot about gaining respect, and she's the one who sat down with Julia with this idea and pushed it towards the big boss. All those character stories just, they do a nice job of not just making it about Julia, but it's about how Julia touches these people's lives too. And there is a moment where she meets Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers.
Nice.
But he only really has one scene, and he's played by Rob McClure. And that was very interesting. Rob McClure does a good impersonation of Fred Rogers, I will say.
Nice.
So that's my pitch for Julia. What do you think?
I think it's the same. I think I would avoid it for the most part until I'm able to watch it with somebody. I think I would definitely enjoy it with somebody. I want to say that it sounds really awesome, but only because the only thing I've seen of Julia Childs is the Meryl Streep film, and I thought that was well acted, but lackluster.
Sure, so, I can agree.
This seems like it's more of a good, in-depth view of her life, as opposed to just like how it helps one woman overcome hers.
Right. I 100% agree, and like I said, I hope they come out with another season of this, if not several. But that movie, I am glad I watched it before this, because you get that movie's the story of her writing the book with Simca, who is in this as well. Simone Beck, played by Isabelle Rossellini. She is her French partner for the book. So I think watching that movie beforehand, anyhow, was really informative to start the book with. It was a good prequel to the series.
Yeah.
So I got one more pitch if we got time. We got time?
It's also not I do, but I was going to say that the movie, I don't want it to sound like I hate that movie, because it is a good movie. Right. It's just, it's a little lackluster, I think.
I appreciate that. So let's hop back into our Tadris, and we're going to go to a parallel present. Ooh. So imagine a world where a company...
I need that in the trailer voice, please.
Do it in the right voice. Imagine a world where superheroes are corporate. So, in the boys, yes, I'm talking about The Boys. I watched the first season when it first came out a while back. I just now caught up on the second season, and they're gonna have a third come out in June. So this is a good review for people who are looking for a show that's still running.
That's exciting.
So Carl Urban, crazy old Carl Urban, plays Billy Butcher. He is the only English character, and he lives in America, where superheroes they don't only just exist, they're frequent, and they are all I don't know if they all are, but it seems like the only company that exists as representation and whatnot for these superheroes is Vought. And really the story is about how Vought does a lot to cover up these accidents and settle in court and stuff like that for things that happen to bystanders. For example, Huey Campbell, played by Jack Quaid, he's our main character, really. Carl Urban is just the big name. He's also a main character, though. He is holding his girlfriend's hands as she steps off the curb. Just then, the speedster of this story, there are several speedsters in the show, the main speedster, A-Train, played by Jesse T. Usher, just obliterates her as he's running down the road. And he's like,
yeah,
I can't stop. And then he just keeps on going. It's really interesting as the story goes on to realize how much of a blip that was on A-Train's mind. It really, he forgets about it. He has to, every time Huey encounters him, he basically has to remind him about it. Yeah, it's kind of sickening. I'm sure there's some kind of parallel they're trying to draw on the real world here about people in power or maybe celebrities. I'm not entirely sure. So why it's called The Boys is that Billy Butcher recruits Huey into this group that includes Mother's Milk, that's the character's name, Mother's Milk, played by Laz Alonso, and Frenchie, that is a nickname, but I don't know what his real name is, I forget, played by Tomer Capone. And Mother's Milk, he is this big, strong black man, and he is very good with tactics, but he's also OCD. And sometimes that gets in the way. And
I can understand.
Frenchie is an inventor, and so they use what Frenchie comes up with when they know that they're going to go out, and they go out and they challenge superheroes because they think that they need to be taught a lesson, and the law isn't on their side for these so-called pedestrian casualties, we'll say. So they use Frenchie's equipment to fight these superheroes, but they have to be subdued because if they're out in the open about it, the superheroes are just going to kill them because they're just regular people. The one person who would definitely just kill them right away is Homelander, played by Anthony Starr. And it's kind of ridiculous. His costume is basically the American flag. I do like how it buttons up just on one side, like an old like flight uniform. But his cape has stars at the top and then red and white stripes. It's a bit gaudy, but it's perfect for this fucking character. And Anthony Starr plays just the best narcissist in the world. I don't know what to say. There's obviously a lot more superheroes in this character. There's Annie January, who is Starlight, played by Erin Moriarty. She also is a love interest for Huey, which that gets very complicated, obviously, him being a vigilante. And Queen Maeve. Is
there a news too?
What's that?
If there's a Huey, is there a news too?
No, there is not. Somewhere. There's not the News, which would be really funny if the character named the News had no face and wore a Tribbley.
If he was just his sidekick. My name's Huey, and this is the News.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, he has to translate it to him or something. Yeah, that's funny. Okay, so there are some other superheroes that we have are Queen Maeve, played by Dominic McElligott. There's also Translucent, who is their invisible character. Excuse me. Let me explain what Starlight and Queen Maeve do. Starlight, she does like photon projectiles, whatever. She drains electricity as well. Queen Maeve is their Wonder Woman equivalent.
Nice.
Why Homelander is their Superman equivalent. Basically the same powers. I don't think he has frost breath, but he's super strong, lasers, flies. The Deep, who is their Aquaman equivalent, played by Chase Crawford, he has both the most disgusting and most hilarious storyline in this show, especially in season 2. I thought maybe they'd drop him and I'd be happy about it because, okay, this is a bit of spoilers, was the first episode. Starlight comes to join the Seven, which is the main big superhero group, and the first day on the job, he sexually assaults her. So it's really easy to hate the Deep. It's good to hate the Deep, and it's fun to watch him get shat on.
Oh, man. The Deep.
There's also Black Noir, who is a mute ninja character. He's played by... Name. Yeah, that is a good name. And he's played by Nathan Mitchell. And I think I also mentioned Translucent. I was trying to find who played him. Alex Hassel. And so the characters that I mentioned are just the characters that are on the Seven. But there's so many more superheroes. And so many little like superhero troops. It's a lot of fun. I recommend it to everyone. It's super gory, though, so I guess I don't recommend it to kids. What do you think?
I've seen the first episode, and I thought it was wildly fun. I thought it was exciting. I like... so I'm like the bit of the opposite of most comic book people. Like, I love comic books, and a lot of people love those offshoots... like the Suicide Squad when they first started, the Teen Titans, like all these like smaller group, like crazier story kind of things. Typically I'm more mainstream. I like the bigger titles. I like the bigger stories, the big events. That's not to say I don't enjoy the offshoots. I definitely do. It's just a lot of those offshoots have very sad and disturbing moments that really upset me at times. Specifically, for example, what's that Amazon Prime show, Invincible? Is that it?
Yeah.
Animated? Yeah, like the very first episode, there's Superman character, spoilers for the first episode of Invincible, but literally it is the first episode, like the first 10 minutes. Well, not the first 10 minutes, but the end of the
last,
first episode.
Like 5 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah. But like their Superman character comes in and just annihilates that world's version of the Justice League. And just seeing that kind of stuff really affects me emotionally because as somebody who loves the mainstream big titles, like I immediately put in the mindset of like, how would this happen if this were to happen to our Justice League, our example of the Avengers, these big people. So it immediately, and I know it sounds silly to some people, but it really does affect me emotionally to watch those things and like to feel for all these characters. And that's how it was with that first episode of The Boys is when the main character's girlfriend just gets obliterated and their speedster's like, and just keeps running. Yeah. It was just like, holy shit. Like, that's explained in DC, by the way. If people are interested, the Flash can vibrate through people. He knows how to vibrate his frequencies so that he doesn't do that to people. Wally West had a harder time learning how to do that. He can explode things, so he had to be very careful when he was running. Because whenever he vibrated through things, they exploded. Until he figured out how to handle that. He eventually did figure out how to handle it, but he had to be very careful when running because that was always present on his mind was I can't vibrate through people to get out of situations because if I'm in a crowd, it's very likely I'll kill some people here and I don't want that, obviously. So yeah, watching that first episode of The Boys was like racking and I think I would definitely love it. It was a lot more fun because I watched that first episode with somebody and I was like, I told myself, I'm going to go back and I'm going to watch this show because I had a lot of fun. But I didn't want to watch the second episode by myself because of that, because of how real it was, how almost visceral. And so it's like it's a swing and a hit. It's a swing and a hit, but I'm stranded on the bases because I need help getting around.
I see. Maybe I have a little bit of help for you. I got a bit of a double pitch for The Boys. During the pandemic, because they probably had to stall their filming, they came out with an animated series called The Boys Diabolical. And the animated series is just 11-minute shorts by different animators. It's kind of like Death, Sex, Robots, or whatever that show is on Netflix. But it's in this world. So you focus on different superheroes. There's one that was Rick and Morty style and has, is it Justin Roiland?
Yeah.
As one of the characters, and it is hilarious. So most of them are comedy. Most of them are comedy. A couple of them are more serious. And I had a lot of fun watching it. There's this one with Aquafina as the main character, though, and spoiler, her superpower was to control her own poop. that one was a little weird.
That is a little weird.
But anyhow, that might be a place to start instead. I don't know. I don't think there were any like major spoilers or anything.
Yeah.
Well, with that's the faceless pitch.
Nice. And let's take a soda pop break and come back and wax poetic on Doctor Who.
Sounds fucking beautiful. I'm ready for it. That's what you get for pissing me off.
That's the last time you mess with me, Greg Callahan.
Well, did we make it? Did we make it back?
Are we back?
Okay.
I don't know. The TARDIS is never accurate, so.
No, it could be a totally different place. Oh, shit. It's been 2 years for you? Oh, it's only been 3 minutes for us. We're sorry, couch potatoes.
We waited forever. We're the potatoes who waited.
The potatoes who waited. Speaking of potatoes who waited, I think I have some potatoes I need to make.
Oh. Don't cook our potatoes again.
Not our audience members, but like...
Oh, okay. Yeah, when we started out, we had like 10 listeners, and you're like, I'm hungry. And we went down to 6, and I was like, oh, yeah, man.
I know.
Don't eat our listeners.
Well, I started outsourcing couch potatoes at that point.
That's fair. But yeah, I wanted to start out with the Doctor Who talk here. First explaining, because I've had a lot of conversations recently, some with my mother, some with other people at work, where I've complained about long-running television shows, and where I've been just like, you know, it's when a show goes on for so long, I'm like, Jesus, they just need to end that shit. And then they always just look at me and they're like, and yet you like Doctor Who, which has gone on now. Next year will be year 60. They'll have their 60th year anniversary. They haven't been on television for all 60 years. You know, they stopped around, I think, 87, and they came back in 2005. So there's a solid, like, you know, close to quite 2 decades there where there was no television. But
no television at all.
No television at all. But needless to say, like, my argument is most television shows that aren't Doctor Who, at least, like every other show that goes on for so long, they don't have a fucking story. They're going because the audience is in love and they have other ideas that they can keep doing, and they just don't know how to fucking end it.
Right.
And to them, I just want to say, fucking end it. Figure out what your story is. Figure out what the message is that you're trying to tell with your story, and end it. With Doctor Who, it changes every, like, 3 or 4 fucking years.
It's designed to go on. It's
designed to go on forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, literally, your whole cast changes. Your whole crew behind the camera changes every single 3 or 4 years. The heart of the show always remains.
Mm-hmm.
But what the story is being told is completely new. It's a new showrunner's story. It's a new idea. You know, sure, same characters, right. The Doctor, but it's a completely new actor. That's Zelda. She's barking in the background.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, it's that's why I can defend Doctor Who, is because, yeah, sure, they don't have an overarching tale, an overarching message they're trying to end, but that's why I love it. So I can keep watching it for fucking ever, because it's just what I love. It's right up my alley. It's just batshit crazy sci-fi that sometimes makes absolutely no sense, but it's just fun. Yeah. It's just fun. Sometimes it's scary, especially the Patrick Troughton era. The Second Doctor era has some really good horror feel, and I think mostly because it's still in black and white, and the sound effects they're using, the score, the soundtrack that is just like kind of eerie. It's kind of like 60s sci-fi eerie. Particularly the Cybermen theme song, because this is the era where we get the Cybermen for the first time, which I'll talk later. But that theme song still irks me. It's still it gets under my skin. I'll do a bad imitation of it, but it's like. Like it's just I can't remember what instruments it is.
What?
Yeah, it's fun and it seems jaunty, but then you're watching the Cybermen move about on screen and they're like they're cyborg like men, right. Basically. You know, they're Mondashian aliens, but those people are very similar to humans
because of budget,
and they have advanced their species. Yeah, and they've advanced their species to become like cyborgs. They don't have emotions. They don't have real feelings. They are just kind of like a brain encased in metal. And when you're watching them move about on the screen, they're kind of jerky and like eerie. And that creepy song is playing in the background. And it's pretty unnerving. And for the kids back in like late 1960s, that was terrifying. Like it sent a lot of kids behind their couch, just like the Daleks did. It was. You know, people were like legitimately like, "Oh my god, this show can be scary and fun," you know, and that's where that's the best starting point is, you know, with William Hartnell leaving and with a lot of the producers and everything leaving, they had a huge hurdle like awaiting them. Like John Wiles was a producer before Enos Lloyd took over. Enos Lloyd is the one who starts with Patrick Troughton as producer. Enos Lloyd is a producer for Pat Troughton's era for the first season and a half. But John Wiles had the idea of, why don't we recast the main character? You know, William Hartnell, he's suffering from his issues, his medical issues. He can't really keep working under our grueling schedule. And, you know, most of the other crew were also getting kind of tired of it because it was very grueling. Wow. And, you know, that weighs on you, especially when a lot of the episodes are like goofy little sci-fis like this. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of actors are going way over the top with their performances because it's sci-fi. You're playing an alien. Of course, you're just going to be like, I'm screaming at the stars. You know, it's like you just go crazy. And it actually makes for a while good television because you got these crazy charismatic villains who are just giving it their all because fuck it, it's television. But like after a while though, it does get tiring, and you know that whole first crew basically of that first era. I mean, there was a lot of changes throughout, but they were all kind of done with it. And you're given this huge hurdle of, how do I overcome that? How do I, how does this new crew keep this beloved show going? Do they de-age the character? Is that what we're doing? Like, is it going to be the exact same character but younger? Well, no. Patrick Troughton comes in. He's like, no, I'm going to do my own fucking thing. I don't want, he's like, I didn't want to do the exact same personality. There's some similarities, but they made it very clear pretty early on, even though they called it a renewal instead of a regeneration. They made it clear, though, that his personality was going to be different than the first Doctor. He wasn't going to be the same. He was the same person, but with a completely new personality. He was a new figure a new facet of this being.
Wow.
And, it's a wild idea. Never been, not really been done before to my knowledge. So, I mean, like, shows had often recast the leads, but to, like, continue with the same characters? No, like, not really. Like, it's usually, like, they'll kill off a somebody character and bring in a new lead or whatever. This was the first time where it's just like, no, we're going to do the same character, call him the exact same person. He's going to act like nothing at all weird's happened. He said, my body's wearing thin. And then he just becomes Patrick Troughton. He's like, this is good. I'm okay with this. And his companions, Ben and Polly at the time, they're just like, what the fuck's going on? Ben Jackson, played by Michael Craze, he's kind of like the audience figure. He's very skeptical. He's like, I feel like I've been cheated. This isn't the same guy. This seems weird. But Polly's kind of more understanding. She's just like, he said he was getting old. He said he was going to get a new body. And lo and behold, this guy's now in front of us.
It just happened. I mean, I didn't think it would happen like that, but it just happened.
Yeah. And the regeneration itself is a little weird. It's just a flash of light. And then while that bright white light is like saturating the screen and you just have like the outline of William Hartnell, still kind of visible. It just morphs into Patrick Troughton. It's like pretty good effects for the late 60s.
That sounds cool.
And nowadays standards, it's kind of a joke. But yeah, they had this huge hurdle. How do we keep it going? And a lot of it's thanks in part to Patrick Troughton in general, let's be honest. He is like an amazing actor and very charismatic, so he carried a lot of this a lot of the new weight that the show had to keep it going. And you also got to give a shout out to Enos Lloyd. Enos Lloyd, as I mentioned, he was the producer, the technical showrunner back then for seasons 4 and half of season 5, and he is also responsible for many of the monsters that are known and loved today in Doctor Who. The Cybermen, he brought them in. He did the Ice Warriors from Mars.
Those are some good episodes in the new show. I like those ones.
Yeah, they're pretty good. And then they're kind of, again, they're creepy. He was really good at creating creepy aliens. I don't know if he created them, but he, it's his ideas, I would assume, or something. They came in under his reign. I give him credit. Maybe it's wrong. My research didn't pull up anything. But he also did the Yetis and the Great Intelligence. Great Intelligence, only seen in the Second Doctor era until Matt Smith's age. Matt Smith and Stephen Moffat brought them back. But they're one of my favorites. I love the Yetis. They're just big, giant, hulking fur. You've seen the Abominable Snowman. It's just kind of like that, but with two glooming yellow eyes, like peering out of their fur on their head. It's goofy and menacing, and like it's so funny. They have big claws. Like, I love it. The Yetis are fun.
Recurring characters in the old series?
Yeah, in the Second Doctor's era, yeah, they have 2 serials, I believe, that remain, and that's to begin with the technical details. That's the sad part about this, the Second Doctor's era, because if any Doctor got screwed the most, it'd be Colin Baker, number 6. But then this next Doctor would be Patrick Troughton, because he did 119 episodes, 21 different stories across those 119 episodes. 53 of those are missing. And of those missing, a lot of those ruin other stories. So it's like, he's missing a lot of his stories because BBC, like I mentioned in the last episode, they just decided to retape. Yeah. They needed, they wanted to cut costs at all corners, like to do whatever they could to save money. And so they just used the VHSs that they had saved Doctor Who on and just retaped them.
Yeah, or whatever the equivalent tape they were using at the time.
Yeah, and it's very sad. And thankfully, throughout the years, a lot of those have been recovered. Not there's probably like 70 or 80 that was missing, and now we're down to like 53. Oh, wow. And it's still possible that there's more out there, like maybe in pawn shops or somewhere where you can find a VHS, because people themselves might have taped them when they were on TV. And that's how a lot of them were found, was because somebody had them in a collected edition kind of thing and then sold it to the BBC so they could remake it and remaster it. There are a lot of stories that are saved through audio dialogue. Like, we still have the audio, but we don't have the visual. And, animators have come forward and made animations of those episodes. So there's still ways that a lot of these lost episodes can be watched, but a lot of Patrick Troughton's era is just kind of, missing. You can watch, there'll be a story that'll have 6 episodes and only 2 of them remain. And you can watch those 2, but you're going to be kind of lost unless you read, what you can find on Wikipedia and that kind of stuff, because it's just gone. And it's real sad. And there's, I've only met one individual in my life who had watched Doctor Who when it was airing. And, hearing him talk about the Patrick Troughton era, watching it on television, was super fucking awesome, because It was just like, oh my God, I've never been able to witness some of these things he's telling me. He's just telling me these stories. I'm just like, oh, this is beautiful. It was a good fan moment for me to just to hear it. But, that's the reason it was so exciting, one, because I haven't been able to see these episodes. So hearing him talk about it was fascinating, but also Patrick Troughton's one of my favorites. Like, he is so much fun. When he came in, he was famous for doing a lot of characters on television. He was a character actor. He did a lot of crazy things. I don't know specifically. I believe one of his most famous ones was Robin Hood. He did a Robin Hood on television.
I just imagining his Mo-like haircut as Robin Hood.
Well, he actually did that for the show. Because he was I don't know if you've seen pictures of him offset, but he was such a handsome man. Yeah, like he is still handsome as Dr. Who.
With the picture I have in my head,
I know, it's crazy. But like, if there's one in particular where he's wearing a black shirt and he's doing studio voice work. If you can find that photo, like he's so handsome in that photo. It's just like, wow, like why did you mess your hair up so much for the show? But I mentioned earlier that of all of the Doctors, there's only two that I had seen before having watched Doctor Who. There's David Tennant, who I watched first ever in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire as Barty Crouch Jr. Then there was Patrick Troughton, who I watched in The Exorcist before.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah. He's the priest who gets speared by the cross when it falls off when it gets hit by lightning and falls off the church and just spears him to the ground. Oh, sure. And that was my first ever, because I didn't watch Doctor Who before I watched The Exorcist. I was like 12 when I watched The Exorcist. I had to sneak that past my mom because The Exorcist. Yeah, for real.
Oh boy, there, couch potatoes. I've made quite a few errors here, haven't I? Okay, well, first of all, there is a third Doctor who I have watched prior to this, prior to the show that is, and that is Jodie Whittaker herself. I watched her on Broadchurch, and I also watched her on Black Mirror for an episode. Oops, sorry. I gotta correct myself there. But the big mistake here, Patrick Troughton wasn't on The Exorcist, he was on The Omen. I watched them both around the same time, and I was so excited about this episode, I just totally fucked up. But yes, he's in The Omen. I described the scene perfect, but, wrong movie. Both great. I'm stupid. Haha.
But, like, there are other Doctors that, they're not the mainstream, like John Hurt later on. He plays the War Doctor. I definitely saw him before I watched Doctor Who.
Super famous, yeah.
Right. He's so huge. And then, who's the other one? There's another, David Bradley. Who replayed William Hartnell's first Doctor. Yeah, I'd seen him before. And also in Harry Potter.
Yes, yeah.
But Patrick Troughton, like, I mean, from what you see in The Exorcist, you get the idea that, like, oh yeah, this guy's a good actor, I like him. But when he appears on screen and as the Doctor, he's a bumbling goofball. Is like immediately lovable. So when he first joined, because most Doctors get to choose their outfits when they join, they get to try to look. And when he was working on his outfit, Patrick Troughton, he was making himself a bit of a pirate. And Sidney Newman came in and was just like, all right, hold on a sec. Sidney Newman was the creator. Sure. He was one of the heads of BBC kind of thing. He was still working on the show at this time, but in a very small overseeing role. But like he came in, saw the images of what they were trying to do with Troughton's character costuming and everything, and he was like, "Now hold on, we gotta make this guy different than the first one, but we're not going that different, okay?" Like he's like, "Give me a." He told them, I don't remember this precise quote, but he told them basically, "Give me a cosmic hobo," and that's what they did. They delivered, and that's like honestly, if there are two words to sum up the second Doctor, it's cosmic hobo.
That's
yeah, it's hilarious. His outfit, he has a baggy checkered trousers, a buttoned shirt with a messy collar, as you said, like kind of bowl cut hair, like Mo from Three Stooges. He has a bow tie because bow ties are cool. And he has a frock coat. And when he's under a lot of duress, when he's trying to think, he will play a recorder, and it's really adorable. And occasionally, he wears a little tea cozy hat. Because Patrick Troughton himself had a thing for tea cozy hats, and he kind of looks just like a cosmic hobo, just traveling across the scars. You just see this guy, and it's just like, oh, he's adorable, he's bumbling, he's goofy. He can often be childish. He'll often act like he's not understanding the situation, and he's like trying to turn the room, like he's trying to think, but like acting like a child. So he has a famous line that he tells one of his companions that an unintelligent enemy isn't a threat like an intelligent one is. So if you're kidnapped by somebody, like what happens to him and his companions a lot in this era, if you act dumb, the enemy's gonna have its guard down because they don't think much of you.
Oh.
And so he does that a lot. He acts very goofy to manipulate people into not expecting him. And once he's got the room, once they think that he's a little bit of a bumbling goofball, he manipulates the fuck out of them. He is so good at that in this era.
It's a very Doctor move, for sure.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. And he has less of an edge like Hartnell did. Hartnell had a very dark, serious side to him that could, sometimes it was a little, he almost, like I said in the first episode, the very first episode, he almost crushes somebody's head because they're wounded. He's like, well, he's going to slow us down. He picks up a rock, and his partner, his companion, Ian Chesterton's got to be like, what the fuck are you doing? You're not killing this man. He's like, oh, I was just picking up a rock. I was like, what are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's dark. Like, he can be dark, but this one, Patrick Troughton, he doesn't have that many dark sides. He does have some serious moments, but for the most part, he's just an adorable bumbling goof, and I love him. He's so good. Next up, I will talk about the companions, because every Doctor roams around with companions,
of course,
and Patrick Troughton is no different. He started, as I mentioned, when he regenerated, when the Doctor regenerated, they were traveling with Polly and Ben Jackson. And I already mentioned Ben Jackson played by Michael Craze. Polly is played by Annette Wills. Not a lot of their episodes remain. A lot of their stuff has been cut. I don't know much about them because the few episodes I've seen...
So we get more of them with Hartnell.
Kind of. A lot of the Hartnell episodes were cut too, which is sad. But Polly, from what I remember, she's fun. Like, she's kind of fun. She's like a fun companion, but like I think there's only like one serial with them remaining. My dog's about to probably start howling here.
Yeah. It sounded so weird as they were approaching because it did not sound like sirens at first. In my head. It sounded like Doctor Who noises, kind of.
Woo!
And I was like, what? Greg, he's coming! They're coming, I mean!
But Ben Jackson, though, I do remember him, but only because he's kind of annoying to me. Okay. He plays the audience's role in being skeptical, but I kind of hate that. Sometimes he's a bit of a stick in the mud. He has the exact same amount of episodes as Polly, I believe, because I think they start and go at the same time, but maybe not. That's kind of out of my ass because, again...
It's also kind of hard to tell because it's gone, like you said, yeah.
Yeah. But he's like disbelieving, disgruntled, and dismal. He's all the disses. He's all out there.
He could be in the Sandman.
And I'll say my favorite companion for the end. There's Victoria Waterfield, played by Deborah Watling. She's not the most memorable, honestly. She only had 2 serials that she was on that I believe she was only on 2 serials. But she's like constantly scared, like easily scared too, and not really used well. There's a lot of people that get kind of swept under the rug and throughout Doctor Who, and she's one of them. And this is also during the area where they're still trying to find their progressive shoes. Like, Doctor Who has always been very good about trying to be with the times, trying to be progressive, sometimes trying to be ahead of the times, but most often they're behind.
Right.
They're always trying, and there's a lot of down moments with the Troughton era that I'll get to, but she's one of them. She's kind of like an underutilized female companion character. One who's not really underutilized is Zoe Harriet, played by Wendy Padbury.
Wingy Padbury. I love the name.
Yeah. But she's a genius. Zoe is amazing because, well, I say amazing. She's kind of bland. Like, she doesn't have much of her personality, but it's because she comes from the future, and so she's super smart, and she's surrounded by idiots. Like, she almost, like, her intelligence in the show, at least, almost rivals the Doctor's. Like, they kind of play it off that what the Doctor doesn't know, she knows. And it's kind of nice, you get this female companion who, she's not always utilized well, but she does have an episode where she outsmarts a supercomputer. So that's pretty fucking cool.
That's cool.
You know? But my favorite companion of most of the classic Doctor Who, like not a joke at all. He's still in my top, like, I mean, easily top 10, probably top 5 if I were to stop and think about it, is Jamie McCrimmon, played by Fraser Hines. Yeah, he's very fun. He plays a Scottish warrior, I believe. Not a warrior, but he's like a soldier.
Okay,
and he's in the middle of a war when the Doctor comes across them, and there's an episode called The Highlanders that's missing, sadly, but that's when he joins the show. I read the giant ass fan wiki page, like plot summary of it, but that was like, half a year ago. I don't remember it. He's so much fun. And him and Patrick Troughton, Fraser Hines and Patrick Troughton, they worked together before the show. They were on some project together.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when he came in, it was just like immediate friendship between the two of them. They clicked so fucking well. Their chemistry is wonderful. Jamie is an idiot. Like, constantly, like, he's always like 5 seconds behind when, like, somebody will say something, but like, what do you mean about that? Oh! and he's wonderful, and him and the Doctor get along so, like, pretty well. The Doctor's always ragging on him. He's always ragging on the Doctor. When the Doctor says that adage about an unintelligent enemy, isn't as big of a threat as an intelligent one, he's telling that the Jamie, and I believe he even follows it up with "just be yourself." He's an absolute joy, and he is the most loyal companion that I think the Doctor's ever had. Oh, like, he listens to the Doctor's word to a T. He protects people. He will go out of his way to make sure that somebody is, like, heard. He's very considerate in that way. And, it's so much fun just to watch him and the second Doctor just, like, riff on each other across the stars and, like, doing all these crazy adventures. And one of the sad things that's lost, I think the Highlander might be one of the last, like, historical episodes, because Enos Lloyd decided, we're not going to do historicals anymore. We're going to focus on the sci-fi. We're going to focus on the fun alien adventures. And I like that. I love those fun alien adventures, but I know there's a lot of people who love those historical episodes. I do too, but, like, not to the same extent. So they're kind of gone for a while.
Well, I would be more interested in them in the new show than I would be in the old. This is a judgment without watching much classic Who. But I just, the slower pace, I think the sci-fi elements would draw me in more than the historical elements.
And yeah, the slower pace, and, like, also with a lot of the historical things, like, while they're trying to be accurate, they're not very accurate, and they're often very non-progressive.
Right.
And that's the big issue of the Troughton era, is, like, if there's one episode, if there's one serial I would recommend people go watch, like, what's the best Troughton serial? The one that comes to mind that I remember most vividly is The Tomb of the Cybermen. It's when the Cybermen are first introduced. It's got that theme. Like, it's got that crazy theme, that creepy, crazy theme. The only problem is there are 3 villains in that serial, in those 4 or 5 episode story arc, whatever, and all villains are foreign. One of them is a black man, and he is presented very much as, like, a mute, non-thinking person. So it's a very, like, that. This is where the show is still struggling in regards to issues, and that was the biggest glaring issue in the entire Troughton era. Was it seemed like they were trying to take a step forward with, like, progressive stuff and, like, inclusion with actors and everything, but they cast them as villains.
Right.
And it's so prevalent in that episode, even though that episode is so, like, that story, I mean, is so good in the fact that it's kind of horrifying. It introduces the Cybermen. It's got, like, these great themes and, like messages that they're trying to tell. But it's weighed down so heavily. And then you have this really stupid fucking hero guy that I hate because he is a bad actor, in my opinion. He's really kind of dumb, but he's the white blonde. And he's the one who's, like, the soldier. So I can't actually recommend The Tomb of the Cybermen, even though it's the one that sticks with me the most, because it's the one that has, like, the best sci-fi themes and everything, it's so fucking racist that it just weighs it down so heavily. It's like the best and the worst episode throughout the entire Troughton era. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure that gets better as the show goes on. It's it's hard to say that it's forgivable because it's old, because that's not what we're saying. But
no.
it is, you kind of have to look past it, because one thing, it's in the past. It happened so long ago. What are you going to do to these people that made this television show?
Right. They're already in the ground.
You just kind of have to watch it. If you're a fan, you just kind of have to watch it and bear it a little bit. And also, from a historical context, it's still very much worth watching for the history of Doctor Who and the history of television and how it progressed and evolved. Doctor Who, the things that the sci-fi craziness that they brought to television, that was pretty much brand new with them. And, you wouldn't have shows like, I'm really struggling to come up with an example, but we'll say Farscape or something like that, where you got these crazy aliens and the ship itself is an alien. Yeah, like, you would not have things like that without predecessors like Doctor Who or Star Trek.
I was going to say, even Star Trek came after Doctor Who, and I think it might have been inspired.
Yeah.
Gene Roddenberry might have definitely been, like, seeing what BBC was doing with sci-fi and been like, I kind of need to do that too.
Right. And I'll say, maybe a little bit less in the OG series, but I do feel like they went for a little bit more of a hard-hitting science feel. I'm not going to say that it is hard-hitting science. Maybe a little bit more in the later series.
Right. Yeah, that's that is like the downside to the Troughton era. Is it definitely has those of the times bullshit, but that's not to demean or undermine what the Troughton era is, because still that's just like the one story that I remember that has that. I'm sure there are others, but they're not as blaring to me, even though I'm kind of ignorant on these kind of things, because white person, I don't live seeing it every day. So it's like sometimes it goes under my radar. So there's probably is more in the Troughton era, but that's the only one that I blatantly remember that really bothered me.
Right.
Even though, again, that episode as a whole has so much good. It's just none of it can be brought to the light because of all the bad.
Right.
But there are other remaining great episodes. There's one episode where Troughton plays another character. Like, so he's playing the doctor, but he's also playing the villain, because they go to an area that has this dictator. He's an orator, just like, like Hitler in a way, but he's not like anywhere near as bad as Hitler. But like he's playing this like dictator character. And then, the doctor shows up, and there's so much confusion because people think, the dictator is the one swimming in the ocean in this ridiculous bathing suit. And they're like, what the fuck's he doing? It's just the doctor having a good time. That's a fascinating series. And, there's a lot of really fun episodes with Troughton, and he's just such a lovable goofball that he gave so much to the show. It's arguable that he gave more to the show than Hartnell, because Hartnell, certainly we would have had nothing without Hartnell.
Right.
But it's arguable also that we wouldn't have had 50 to 60 plus more years without Troughton. Sure. Because everything changed. It was all on Troughton to make it that this can keep happening, that you can keep changing and reviving this show. And he did it wonderfully. He did specifically by not just bringing what Hartnell brought to the table, he brought what Patrick Troughton could bring to the table. And, there's a famous quote from William Hartnell himself when he's presented with the fact that Patrick Troughton is going to replace him. William Hartnell is quoted as saying, "There's only one man in England who can take over, and that's Patrick Troughton." Nice. And, he had his supposedly had his predecessor's full approval. I say supposedly because there's that movie, An Adventure in Time and Space, that has David Bradley playing William Hartnell, mostly a biopic on that. And it's a fabulous, wonderful movie, but it definitely, that movie made it seem like it was more of William Hartnell was hit hard by the fact that he was being made to leave because of his medical issues, and so he was trying to keep face and show his approval and understanding without losing his his temper or emotions. So it's like whether or not he really believed those words, it's arguable. But that is one thing he's quoted as saying, and it kind of set the landscape, I will say, for the Doctors kind of like helping the new one in. Because it kind of seems like they, sometimes, especially nowadays, modern times, maybe not so much back in the classic episodes. I don't know how they interacted, coming and going. But nowadays, it's from what Jodie Whittaker said, what Matt Smith said, and now actually even Ncuti Gatwa said that Jodie called him. I think it just kind of seems like they called the next one. Yeah. Yeah, the presidential letter. Yeah. But sadly, the last thing I wanted to talk about is saying goodbye, because Patrick Troughton, again, it's because of that grueling schedule. They were still doing 100 episodes or so. Like as I said, throughout his whole career, Troughton did 119 episodes in 3 years. So they were doing way too much. It's a lot of work.
At least,
and
I think it's like 32
close to 40
something.
a year.
You said 100 and what episodes a year?
119, so it's just one under 40 a year.
30 something, yeah.
Yeah, 40, 39. And, like, it's a lot. Sorry. Math head. But, I mean, he was also, like, afraid of being typecast, because he's a character actor, you don't want to get stuck in one role forever. So he also set this new precedent, because William Hartnell was there for 3 years and left. Patrick Troughton was there for 3 years and left. That's kind of the golden number, it seems, for Doctor Who, especially with modern day, because, Tennant, Smith, Capaldi, Whittaker, 3 years and gone. And it's like, it's just become, it's just the trend. I think there's I know Colin Baker and Sylvester McCoy didn't get 3 years.
And neither did
Davidson.
Eccleston, but he'd never really planned to.
No, he didn't. Yeah, he just wanted to bring it back, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think Peter Davison, the fifth Doctor, might have had 3 years. I'm not sure about that. We'll get there in a couple years, I guess. But Troughton said goodbye. He was going to say goodbye, that is, and along with him was going Jamie McCrimmon, Fraser Hines, who was almost like he was in a lot of episodes with Troughton. Like once he came on, he was the longest running companion for a very long time, and
wow.
And he made it so much fun to watch because they together they were great, but they were all leaving, and they had the crazy thing is they had when they made the decision, the producers and everybody kind of looked it down. They're like, okay, we still have 10 episode block, so we have a 10 episode block to say goodbye, to have a good finale. So Patrick Troughton's last story is a 10 episode story called The War Games, which I love. The War Games, it's a lot of fun. It's a very fascinating story. You get a lot of different fictional forms of time periods and stuff, because they're going all across historical periods having war games. There's these overarching villains who are playing war games, basically using real people and computer simulations. Yeah, it's very interesting. It's a lot of fun for everybody. I know there's some people who hate it, but I find it very good entertainment. But the problem with it is the very last episode when we say goodbye, because this is also the story where you get significant background into the Time Lords, into the Doctor's race. They've been mentioned before. They were first mentioned in a William Hartnell episode where they had the monk. There was he comes across a fellow Time Lord called the monk. I don't think they call him a Time Lord in that episode. But the William Hartnell does mention he is of my race. He is one of me. Well, not one of me, but one of my people. But here we actually get Time Lord name dropped, because one of the villains is a Time Lord, one of the people who's playing the war games, and the Doctor realizes the only way that he could stop this villain, spoiler alert, is to contact the Time Lords to get them to correct things, because this guy is fucking up time. And so he's unnerved in doing that, because he himself has been playing around with time. He's been traveling all over, visiting people, having his grand adventures. that's not something the Time Lord, the Time Lords are of the opinion that we're not supposed to mess with time, blah, blah,
he
blah,
stole
bullshit.
the TARDIS.
He also stole TARDIS, yeah. He's a criminal, basically, the Doctor is.
Yeah.
And the only way he can stop all this evil is to contact them. They're the only ones who could write everything. And so he does that. He contacts them, they step in, and then the last episode is basically a trial where they try the Doctor for his crimes and everything, how he has affected the world, and they remove his companions, send them back to their timelines, sands the memory of the Doctor. So Jamie goes back to Scotland right in the middle of his war where he was fighting when he first met the Doctor. And to my opinion, to my knowledge, that is, I don't think he has memories. So it's it's a very Donna Noble situation that, David Tennant's companion Donna Noble. So it's very upsetting because he's one of my favorites. He does come back in later episodes. There's the 2 Doctors and the 5 Doctors for other Doctor eras where they have big events where all different reincarnations of the Doctor meet and have an adventure. And so Fraser Hines comes back for those episodes, which is wonderful.
That is
but
awesome.
Yeah, it's just one of the saddest things that he leaves. And then the Doctor's punishment is a forced regeneration. And he's forced into regenerating, and he's also has the memory of time travel removed from him. So yeah, he is.
I didn't know that part.
At the end of Patrick Troughton's era, you don't really know what that means. But when John Pertwee steps in, when we get to the 3rd Doctor, you find out that for a lot of John Pertwee's beginning, for like the first 2 years or so, he's locked on Earth. He's stuck on Earth. His TARDIS won't go anywhere because he doesn't know how to fix it. He doesn't remember how to time travel, how to do this. So he is stuck in one era, and that's his punishment. Now, interestingly, there is a lot of fan belief that since we don't see the regeneration from Patrick Troughton into John Pertwee, there's belief that that's where they use, that's where the Time Lords use Patrick Troughton to do shit for them. So there's been comics, there's been books, there's been hints in recent Modern Who that this was an era where the Doctor was being used as kind of like a renegade Doctor. So Chibnall kind of flubbed that.
That would be a good place for the memory wipe to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
But that would mean that they had I can't get too much into it.
I know, right? The spoilers for all the New Who. But at the same time, Chibnall didn't seem like he was going to do anything with that, so...
Yeah, but Russell T. Davies could. I mean...
Russell T. Davies could, but I think Russell T. Davies might ignore a lot of what Chibnall's done.
Yeah. There's some cool stuff, though. There's some cool stuff that just wasn't super well written. Sorry, Chivers.
Right. Yeah, sorry, Chivers. Chivers did come out and say that he expects Russell T. Davies to kind of ignore most of what he's done. And his explanation for that is, like I mentioned at the very beginning of the episode, this is the new era.
Yeah.
This is Russell T. Davies coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's reviving it. He gets to do his own story now. The elements he wants to keep, he can keep. The elements he doesn't want to keep, he can kind of ignore or entirely forget about or reverse or whatever the fuck he wants. That's how this show survives. So,
and you know what? Our show survives by doing 2 episodes a week.
Yeah.
So, that is quite a bit.
Yeah.
But it is a lot of fun, and I feel like we're watching about the same amount of stuff as we would have if we weren't doing this.
Right.
So I've been enjoying it, and I hope that when we get old and sickly, they regenerate us and have
that'd be nice.
Yeah, new green and faceless reviewers.
Dude, I'm down. Like, I can keep the face, but if they want to regenerate my body, that'd be nice.
Yeah, that would be good.
I like my face. I like my legs and my feet. I think those are good. Yeah. But my torso up to my chin. I can deal with regeneration there. My belly up to my chin, really.
Belly to your chin?
Include my belly.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotta include the belly.
I think that if they were to do anything with me, they'd have to melt me down and then, like, re-pour me into a mold.
Right, yeah. And then build you up like Play-Doh.
Make me look more like John Cena. Just in the body.
Ooh, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
I don't want to be that ripped.
Yeah, it's a bit much. You're right. Step somewhere between. No, you know what? Just Stephen Amell. Just make me Stephen Amell.
Yeah, I'm down for that. Skinny thick.
Yeah, that's skinny thick. Oh shit!
No, if I were to rate, I believe I rated the Hartnell era. So if I were to rate the Troughton era, I'd give it. I would give Troughton himself 3.5 stars, but I'd give the era 3 because it's brought down by the issues I mentioned, and by the fact that a lot of it's missing, which is just very unfortunate. But if you're going to start with a Doctor, I definitely recommend starting with Troughton, even though it's all kind of hodgepodge and missing. He's still just so fun and lovable. His era was a lot of fun. So, yeah, that is the show, I think. For those of you loyal couch potatoes who stuck with us, thank you so much. I know this episode is almost solely for me, but I'm sure there's people out there who love to hear other people gush about things. And for you, I very much appreciate it.
Yeah, this one's for the Whovians. I hope you find it and that you also find it enjoyable. I've been the Faceless Leon.
And I'm the Green Traveler from Gorge.
Thank you so much for listening. Safe travels, and good night. Green and Faceless on the Couch is a proud production of FictionWorks 19. Are you a fan of the show? Feel free to contact us at greenandfacelessfans@gmail.com or visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/greenandfaceless. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, or rate us on Apple Podcasts. Thank you so much for listening.